agenda is item 6.4, presentation of the 2021 Lake County Annual Crop Report. And we have Catherine Vanderwall, our Agricultural Commissioner and Sealer of Weights and Measures Director.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Catherine Vanderwall, Agricultural Commissioner, Sealer of Weights and Measures. I would like to thank you for your time this morning as I present to you the 2021 Crop Report for Lake County. So what is the crop report? In essence, every year, each county in the state prepares a report that details the gross value and production of agricultural commodities grown within the county as required by the California Food and Agriculture Code. California is unique in that we are the only state where each county produces their own crop report. This information is used by businesses, financial institutions, and other agencies. The information in these reports can also be used as benchmark data when determining loss from a disaster. I'd like to thank all the agricultural producers, businesses, and other entities who contributed information for this report. I would also like to thank my staff, Sam Upton, Avella Cartero, Janice Luke, and Kevin Gonsalves, who worked closely with our producers to obtain the information and compile the data. So in 2021, Lake County's agricultural commodities had a gross value of $83,452,366. This is an 11% increase from the gross value of 2020. I want to mention that this report represents gross values only and does not take into account the costs of production, marketing, transportation, or net income or loss to the producers. In this slide, we have a 15-year gross value comparison. So to the far left is 2007, and then we proceed to right to 2021. So 2017 was our peak year there, and this can be contributed to both the wine grape and the pear industry. So as is common in many areas, including agriculture, there are ebbs and flows. Market prices, demand, environmental conditions, and crop varieties fluctuate, all of which have an impact on our gross value. So our gross production values, 2021 is represented in blue, and 2020 is represented in orange. And you may not be able to read the numbers in there, so I apologize for that, but you could see the comparison and how things have shifted from 2020 to 2021. So in 2021, the value of timber was $29,670, which represents a 6% decrease from 2020. Field and seed crops, such as pasture, rangeland, hay crops, and others, saw an increase of 46% in 2021 with a gross value of $1,798,522. Livestock and poultry products, such as eggs, honey, and other products, saw a 79% increase in 2021 with a value of $161,555. Livestock production was down 20% when compared to 2020. The gross value for livestock production in 2021 was $2,045,612. Vegetable crops saw an increase of 41% in 2021 with a gross value of $240,045. Nursery production was up 6% with a gross value of $1,135,927. And our total all fruit and nut category, which includes wine grapes, pears, walnuts, and other miscellaneous fruit and nut trees, that saw an increase of 11% with a gross value of $78,041,035. Our top 5 commodities coming in at number 5 is rangeland, and that's an estimated $900,000. Our number 4 commodity is nursery production, just over $1 million. Our number 3 commodity, which is cattle and calves, at about $1.2 million. Our number 2 commodity is pears, with a value of $17.7 million.
There you go.
So that's an increase of 7% from 2020. And I also want to make note, if anybody did look at the crop report as far as the acreage reported for 2020 versus 2021, you'll see that 2021 shows an increase of 17 acres for pears. Many are aware that there are no new plantings of pears. So I believe what happened is when we were doing our acreage survey in 2020, some of the acreage may have been missed, which was then picked up in 2021. Just to explain that discrepancy. Okay, and then our number 1 commodity is wine grapes at $59 million. That is a 13% increase from 2020. That is the end of my presentation. Does the board have any questions?
Supervisor Sabatier.
Thank you so much for this report. I really appreciate seeing this annually. It's really, you got a leak. It's really easy to find the reports on your website still, even with the new website. I think it's very useful to look at the trends and look at where we've come from and where we are today, because year to year, things happen, but long-term trends, it's easier to see when you look at each of the reports. I was surprised at how much more acres were planted for our wine grapes. I expected a smaller amount. I thought it was more around the 300 acre, but it seemed to be closer to the 500 or more acre range. But I do want to mention something, and it's a conversation that I've had with our ag commissioner, and I thought it was a good time to mention this here with the board. In 2016, for vegetables and other miscellaneous crops, we know that our pears have gone down. So 2016, we were like at 1,500 acres. We're close to 1,300 acres right now, with the addition of 17 new acres, as you stated. But we know the pears are going down. We know the walnuts, it's basically, we've been priced out. Some people are keeping their walnuts, but as far as what's harvested and what's produced has definitely declined. But when we look at our vegetable crops, which is still talking specifically about food, in 2015 it was 21 acres. It kind of went down and kind of went up. Eventually we seem to have hit a high of 32 acres in 2019. And in 2021 we dropped to 7.52 acres. I am concerned in the food production that we have here in Lake County, and I know that I've had conversations with the Farm Bureau, with the Ag Commissioner, and others. How can we increase that to create sustainability for food production? We just went through the Ag Venture together with Chair Crandall. We had a conversation about food scarcity. I'm in other state conversations where food scarcity is becoming a very common topic because of the extreme weathers that we face and because of the unpredictability of the weather that we face with climate change that's occurring. And so these are becoming more and more important, at least to me, and I'm bringing it to the board, that we should look at a way to try to get our food production to be increased. I know I am working on those things. It's kind of unknown what that is, but I just want to highlight that that's a concern to me. As an agricultural county, agriculture means a lot of different things, from wine grapes to cattle grazing to cannabis, but I think food production, just like water, is truly one of the most important things to me when I look at that report, and seeing it getting smaller and smaller is concerning, and I hope that we can increase it, create greater markets that demand us to have food. That's one of the things that I'm working on, but I wanted to highlight that because that is definitely something that I take from this report. We're doing well. It's great to see the increases that we have, but I'm very much focused on the food production that's occurring here, and I hope that we can see that increase in the years to come. But thank you for the report.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you. I love this report. It's glossy. It makes me happy. Did have a couple softball questions. and probably not part of this report, but I didn't see any plans for agent releases or control measures for yellow star thistle in 2023. Maybe that's a separate item for a different day to discuss about what the Ag Department's various control activities are. But yellow star thistle is a thing, so that kind of popped out to me. I did see the impact on the walnuts from the freeze event. I was a little curious about whether that's just like, it's the way it is and that's going to be permanent damage, or if there's an opportunity, or if you see any signs of rebound from that freeze event. And last question, and I don't need answers to any of these, it's just observations. Yeah, I'm kind of curious about our domestic food supply, and it's not entirely all on our larger agricultural community to do that they're going to grow crops for the markets they can find, but through some combination of community gardens or just micro grants to get some of our growers back into that domestic food supply. That's, I support that. One thing I didn't see in here that I would be curious to see in future years is available ag land and land that is actually being used for production. Again, I come from Fresno, where ag land is routinely swapped out for different crops left and right, but the one thing you don't see a lot down there is fallow land. But I do see quite a bit of fallow land in our ag basins, and it's concerning to me. So I don't know if it's an economic suppression that's going on there and the lack of ability to bring these lands back into production, but having, just as we're studying in a future item what our groundwater capacity is, understanding what our surface land capacity is for agricultural production, knowing what our baseline is, and using that kind of baseline to figure out if we're underperforming, if there are things we can do to stimulate not just small-scale agriculture, but big-scale agriculture. So it is concerning to me that we do have a fair amount of lands that don't appear to be in any type of production, and I don't know how you would quantify that, or if it should be quantified in a crop report, but it's kind of the backside of the crop report is what crops aren't we growing, on what lands are we not using in not growing those crops, if that makes sense. So those are just kind of broad questions. You can take a couple stabs if you want, or just say, I'll get back to you on those items.
Definitely. I think the last item you addressed, I'd have to get back to you. So the crop report it's a mandated report by the Food and Ag Code. So there's certain criteria or elements that have to be in this report. So adding something in as far as our acreage of agricultural land and availability of what's fallow would be an addition to the report. And that's something, of course, that I'd have to work with other county departments to get that information. And, keep in mind, too, that even if a parcel is zoned as ag, it may not necessarily be suitable for, crop growing or something. It could be like on the side of a hill or, it's all just depends. But as far as the first two questions, the biological control agent release, so that is a historical program that we still have those agents, throughout the county. That program was through the California Department of Food and Ag, and counties worked cooperatively with the State Department of Food and Ag, for the agents and to release them into areas. And several years ago, the state, there was a lot of cutbacks in the state and different programs, and that was one of the programs that was cut. So as of now, that's not happening. We're just working with what's established in the county. That's something we can definitely keep an eye on and look into to see if there are any programs that, we could monitor to see what agents that we still have here, or if there's any more release programs that we might be able to obtain. So with that one. And as far as the walnut growers, there was that late freeze in 2020 that hit the walnut growers hard. Just driving around the county, you can see damage in the orchards. So some of the walnut growers, they were very proactive. They're trying to rehabilitate their orchards, cut out the old deadwood. But it's just going to take years. There's a time factor to see the health of those orchards come back. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Simon?
Follow-up comment. Supervisor Sabatier, I think you're completely right. What type of foods that we're producing here. So I hope that that continues, and we as a board, really talk about that over the next decade. Supply chain, which we experienced during the pandemic, other reasons, but food sovereignty is very important, especially with our location as we're moving forward for the next generations. I think looking at those opportunities is going to be real important. And with bringing the Blue Zones program here to Lake County to look at how do we provide that healthier food, more organic, the farm-to-table atmosphere, it not only supports our, community being healthier, but also providing that other part of the economy. When we say we're an agricultural community, we really need to get to that food production level, along with the grapes and everything else that's coming along. So I definitely agree with you in that conversation. These are things we all need to be having as landowners or business owners as we move forward, how we do that. So I completely agree. The other question, just to comment, I guess, I know we have another product that may not be a part of this report, but I know in the past, our previous ag commissioner, said this was some of the cannabis crop that was done. It wasn't a specific, but I know we did get a report here at the board just on, potentially how many acres might be in cannabis and what was brought off of that. And just looking at that, it's going to be every year. It is, I know it's specifically not for this, but just in general understanding for ourselves as the board to understand. And I think it was just a comment. It wasn't provided in the report, I don't think, by Steve, but I know he did make some comments here in front of us of the board of the other industry we have establishing now in Lake County,
Right.
which is not an agricultural crop at this point. I don't know the exact definition, but for our information, it is being farmed here in Lake County.
Correct. And so we don't have that information for 2021. 2022, I am planning on having that information available to you. And because the crop report is part of the state crop reporting system, which is then part of the USDA crop statistics, and because, the federal government still does not recognize cannabis as an agricultural commodity, it cannot be included in the crop report for that reason. However, counties have been given direction that they can include like an addendum or like an insert. It would be its own standalone information sheet. And we are planning to do that for 2022.
Excellent, thank you.
And just one thing, and I think this is kind of a takeaway from both the report and the Ag Venture. We do have award-winning agriculture happening right here in Lake County, and that is both our wine grapes that we grow. It was actually really pleasant during our redistricting process to listen to the state talk about Lake County as being a part of Napa, because we are a part of wine country, and I thought that was something we need to bank on and really take advantage of. And I think our wine association and so on and so forth have really taken advantage of that as well, and as well as our cannabis, who have won awards as well. So I think that we have a landscape that provides exactly the type of resources needed to create the products we need, and just wanted to highlight that we have an amazing place.
Yeah, well, also the pears,
No,
world-renowned.
the pears.
So obviously, if you live in Lake County and you've not had a pear, I'll tell you what, you're sure missing out. But what the pear industry does for Lake County International, and obviously the wine industry too, but the long-standing, pear industry is just, it's phenomenal. And I really enjoyed that process, going through the Ag Venture, understanding the entire process, how it all works, and then just seeing not only the production of the fruit, but the job opportunities too it creates for the workforce during picking season, and all the educational opportunities, and even the working the young workers that get to work there from the Kelseyville area and around the county to see that hard work experience. So it's phenomenal. So obviously all of them, but I tell you the pears. I will tell you.
I feel like I just got slapped in the hand for not mentioning the pears, but thank you, saved me.
Glad you mentioned the pears, because you were mentioning how the addition to the 17 acres and whatnot, and then probably next year, if you drove through Highway 20 where it meets 29 over in Upper Lake, and I think we discussed it in the Ag Venture course, that some of those areas are not going to be, growing pears any longer, so we'll be having a different amount there. And then I noticed even in the Ag Venture course that one of the farmers were discussing how difficult the market was when it comes to walnuts. And so, yeah, so I don't know. I agree with you on working on different initiatives to try and assist some of the farmers with that work, so. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments?
No.
I'll open it up to the public. If there's anyone from the public, please come up to the microphone or raise your hand in the Zoom and state your name for the record, and I'll start your 3 minutes. Come on up.
I'm Joan Moss. The sheriff at the Veterans Day ceremony called me a journalist. I don't know if he was calling me a name or complimenting me, but I try to keep tabs. I was a farmer's market manager for more than 2 or 3 years. I really love the crops. I attended the Planning Commission last meeting, the whole meeting, and I wanted to verify what you said, is that the federal government does not recognize cannabis as a crop, an agricultural crop. And I also wanted to ask a very controversial question. The grape crop is our highest producer, but I want you to ask yourself, does grape make a food? I believe grapes are also an industry rather than a crop. That's just my opinion. Thank you. But I congratulate you, and we have to keep Lake County producing crops that make food. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. All right. Supervisor Green?
Just since it was raised, this particular point as to the status of cannabis has been problematic for at least the last 6 years. Under California state law, cannabis is an agricultural product, and in my belief is entitled to all the respect and the rights thereof. As the federal law changes, as it will in future years, and we start clarifying what can and can't be included in certain activities and reports based on perceptions about whether it's a product or a commodity, we're going to plow through those procedural issues. But let's just all be clear that cannabis is a plant. It's grown in soil, under sunshine. It uses water, and it is an agricultural activity. It is an agricultural product, and someday, soon enough, it will be an agricultural commodity. And I hope we can just here in Lake County acknowledge that cannabis is super important to our economy currently, and we should be giving it all the respect it is due. Thank you.
So I'll look online. I don't see any hands up. So I'll close public input at this time and bring it back to the board. And I think there is action that is listed.
Move we approve the 20.
Oh, wait, one second. Ms. Grant?
This report's already been issued, I believe, and it's on the agenda as a presentation, so there really is no action. I do see there's a notation in the staff memo for approval,
Okay,
but
that's why.
listed as a no action item.
Okay, my fault. I seen that note and I thought there was. So, yeah, there's no action needed. All right, well, thank you very much, Catherine, for your report.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.